Within the motor and insurtech spaces, there aren't many businesses that have reached the heights of Zego. With a selection of products that range from hourly to yearly policies, Zego is one of the first to truly unlock the potential of flexible insurance. Since 2018, Sten Saar has acted as the CEO of the company, with Zego regularly being named as one of the most exciting and effective insurtechs in the world. He has led the innovation charge with recent changes such as creating in-house processes and using AI to automate claims. In this session, Sten will discuss the latest trends in the automotive industry and his vision of the future for motor insurance. Please welcome Sten Saar.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining us here today. My name is Merlin Bates, I'm the head of content for ITC Dear Europe, and of course I am joined by Sten Saar, who, unless you've been living under a bridge for the past few years, hopefully you'll be aware of as the CEO of Zego.
Morning.
Sten, why don't you just quick intro, a little bit of background, 10 seconds, and then we'll jump into it.
Hello, hi. I'm Sten Saar, I'm CEO and co-founder of Zego. Originally from Estonia, but have been building Zego for the last 7 years, based in London. Zego is my fourth business, the largest business we built. We've raised 280 million in total. We've got 350 people. We do close to 200 million GWP business dollars, and then operating in kind of 12 countries in Europe.
Fantastic stuff. So if any of you have seen any of my webinars previously, you will know that I like to start by setting the scene. So I'm going to get Sten to do that for us right now. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty around insurtechs at the moment for a number of reasons. But why don't you just give us an overview of the market from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it was grow at any cost in 2021, a bit of 22 as well. Then it's almost like, I'm sure when we were all kids played a game called the musical chairs, when you kind of go around the chairs and suddenly music stops and you take out one chair. The music stopped middle of 2022, sorry. And now it's like, okay, whatever they have on the bank account, you have to figure out a viable business with what you have, quite frankly. And now it's almost the moment of truth, in a sense that the full stack insurers, they need to get the underwriting right, they need to get the expense ratio right, and they need to be very, very good in claims. And the ones who are selling software actually have to have customers, actually have to have revenue coming in. And I think in that sense, it's a bit of a there's autumn storms, the loose branches get blown off the trees. It's similar stuff that when you don't have a viable business, if you don't have legs, you won't have a chance to stand. And that's pretty stark reality, but that's what it is.
And you mentioned a few things there that perhaps previously, up until that 2022 period, we were in this phase where revenue might have been the big target, or size, or even valuations. We saw some, quite honestly, majorly overinflated valuations of insurtechs. The dials shifted a little bit, the goalposts have moved, and so one thing I think we should discuss is the profitability of insurtechs. You brought up, revenue, customers, and working with the funds that you already have, and how do you make that a viable business model. But in terms of the profitability of insurtechs around the world, how does that need to change in order to start building a sort of a sustainable period of success?
Yeah, I think there are three types of insurtech companies. One, so-called full stacks. The other one is MJ-like companies, and then software companies who sell software to insurers. Full stack MJs, you have to have an underwriting advantage. You have to be able to underwrite so that when you sell 10 euros, it's costing you 8, not the other way around. Because the more you sell 10s and the customer just gives you 8, you're just gonna lose out. And then software and insurance, I've always find it's one of the hardest sells you can have when you sell software in an insurance company, because large incumbents, the systems are so multifaceted. Probably Allianz has thousands of systems, and trying to kind of sell some of them, it's near impossible. So you have to have very, very good. But it is really do you have a product that customer really wants, and where you have underwriting advantage, thinking about full stack companies. And if I'm selling software, like, do I really have a software that solves a genuine problem that is somehow there's a way to integrate into a large insurer? And you need to really focus on what matters, you know? We've had to make some tough decisions throughout the last year and a half, multiple levels. And be it around people, be it around kind of like even small stuff, and what office you use and so forth, because you need to focus on what matters. The rest is just noise, and hard decisions have to be made very quickly.
And you brought up the fact that it's difficult for the software companies to sell to insurers right now. Can you sort of walk us through why you think that is?
Sure. So, I mean, we've seen some great demos today. A lot of those systems, for example, have to integrate with large incumbent claim system, for example, that is like decades old system. And everyone has their own unique process based on, you know, even a geographical region. And it's just like you have to do this mammoth integration. And then with your engineering team of 10 versus there's outsourced supplier of like, where it works on a time horizons of like a couple of years, you just don't have enough cash runway to like, hey, I'm going to start the process and hopefully in 2 or 3 years I have a partner alive. It's very, very, very hard. I would say trying to change a policy management system is near impossible task because it relates to all of the systems and reporting and everything else. And it's way more easier to take a kind of insurance company from start, build it up. But my theory is with a lot of like full stacks might happen is that they built an end-to-end working system, they grow, then they get purchased at some point, and then all of the premium is going to be put through those systems, and suddenly they become the new, because integration is near impossible, whereas like putting renewal business into a new system is way more easier.
And I'm actually going to pull back, because you mentioned about the underwriting advantage that full stack insurtechs need to have. It's something, a comment that I heard about 12 months ago, which is that insurers are no longer judged against their insurance competition. Allianz is no longer judged against AXA, for example. Actually, they're judged against tech companies, Deliveroo, Uber, etc. And when you mention underwriting advantage, is that underwriting advantage for these full stack insurtechs, these MGAs, is that against their sort of insurtech competition? Is it against the insurers, the traditional carriers that they're competing against? I mean, what does that competition look like?
Yeah, so my conviction is all about how can I select risk better than my competition? What do I know more? 1 or 2 data points more than my competition out there. Let's say all of you in the audience have a car and are drivers. I want to win against other competitors knowing about you and your driving more than the competition. That is it. And then based on that, I decide whether I onboard you as a customer or not. And that is underwriting advantage. Quite frankly, I don't stand a chance winning if I don't have that, because my competitors have decades of claims data, and they know historically what type of driver you are, for example, we're doing motor insurance. So that is one thing that has to be proven as well, right? And I think at Zego, we focus on telematics data. It's like, how can I, because most of the insurers don't use that. They don't know how to do it properly. And if I have that, I can pick better risk. I'll drop the rate for better drivers 30-40%, and I'll increase for bad ones to 40-50%, and they go out to the market. So, and I think with full stacks, there's like they've said, I've got it, but it's not come through in loss ratios. So therefore, they have to prove that in loss ratios, and that is one of those things that like the rest is, you might have a better operational efficiencies, this and that, but when you think of 100 euros, for example, you pay out in claims or indemnity, depending on the product, 60-70%, majority, right? So if you optimize your cost of service from 5% to 3% to 2%, it's marginal. Therefore, I think underwriting advantage is the most transformative way to win in insurance against be it a the likes of Ubers or other large insurance companies.
Let's talk about loss ratios, because I don't think it'll be any secret to the people in this room that for a while the loss ratio was a bit of an elephant in the room. It was people started talking about it, but it feels like it's been swept under the rug just a little bit. I know, having been sort of in and around the insurtech space for the last 3.5 years, Zego has managed to keep a relatively healthy loss ratio compared to the rest of the market. I mean, how have you managed to achieve that?
Yeah, quite frankly, we have 7 products, 5 out of 7 are profitable. They're providing underwriting profit in current climate, right? So, and the other 2 aren't far off either. So in that sense, what we've been doing, we've gone into segments that we find an underwriting advantage and price based on that. So just to bring it to life, food delivery drivers. We price based on how long is their shift, is one of the rating factors. If you work more than 6 hours, your risk goes up exponentially, right? So we take out the average shift time there. Uber drivers, we take the Uber score that we all give out at the end of the journey that we score on, very predictive of risk. We take that into rating factor. We take into account on top of that what time of day they're driving. If you're driving mostly during normal hours, you're mostly sitting in traffic jams where the risk is predominantly just property damage. Whereas if you work more at nighttime, the speeds are greater, where the bodily injuries are greater. We take that as a factor into rating factor. And then with van and also Uber drivers that we also start to go into other areas is we take telematics data. And telematics data we just don't use as a rating, but as a rating factor we use. If you're a good driver, you get discounted 30%. If you're a bad driver, you get loaded with price of 60%. Consciously want to you to go away. For good customers, we got retention of 95%. Bad ones, we got 50, 45, 50. So, and there we have those underwriting advantages for each of those segments that we go systematically one after the other. And we use the data in claims as well. Fraud goes up in recessions. We've seen a lot of theft of vehicles, more also just general claims fraud. And with those data points, you reduce that. And those are just to give a few examples of how we win and how we have better underwriting advantage.
Let's start talking a little bit more about the future. And you've mentioned telematics there, which we've been using in the industry for a few years now, but still probably relatively nascent in terms of what we can really take advantage of. On the technology side, what do you see for the future of the industry? What are those technologies that are going to be key for the future of insurance?
So I think for insurers is how do you use more one value asset that insurers have, which I'm nervous about how are they going to use, is the wealth of data they have, right? So imagine when you think of all the AI innovation at the moment, it's there's a lot of noise around different models and so forth. What is clear is that the models will be commoditized. They become running water effectively. And but now what makes who wins in that world is what data you put into those models. And if your data is proprietary data and unique data, then the model will do magic. I am slightly nervous if an insurer decides, right, I'm going to put all of my data into one of those models to do something, they could find something that I don't have, right? So therefore, I think everyone talks about AI, but I think a lot of people don't understand what it fully means. It's just a new word for just a technology. But that's one area I think that there could be huge of underwriting advantages uncovered, putting the insurer proprietary data into those models. And second element is the self-serving capabilities, chat interaction is very intuitive to everyone. For again, decades, we've been interacting on messages, on old Nokias, we were typing messages to and from, right? So that's very intuitive. And then all of the user experiences rolling into that function, I also see being a very kind of a, transformative in that sense. In our case, for example, there's one product where 80% of interactions are self-served, from purchasing to MTAs, like midterm adjustments, to cancellations. We do not speak for the customer. And so those I think is very exciting. And I think, if 5 years ago I was like, large insurers don't stand a chance really because of their complicated infrastructures they have and how they each talk to each other or don't talk to each other and the costs of it. Now that barrier has massively changed. So I think insurers can almost like skip a step if they want it, which is exciting,
And speaking of exciting, hopefully some of you will have seen our AI-generated image of Sten as a Jedi Master on the walls. Thinking about, using it won't be up there right now. Maybe taking some inspiration from the Jedi and having some kind of powers of foresight. What do you think a successful insurtech looks like in 5 years' time?
So my golden formula is that when you look at insurance companies at the moment, and again, let's ignore this year's growth because everyone is talking about a lot of growth, but really it's just price increase growth. And I think it's important to look at underlying policies that they've actually been transacted on. So because market required price increases, insurance just put it through, customer took it. Like that's a kind of a, I don't think we can really own as an industry that well done, we've done well because we put prices up. Nothing actually really changed in that sense. So I think to me is, so therefore the average insurer has been growing, the market has been growing like 5% year over year, 4-5% over year. Now, an insurtech's ideal position is that you grow around kind of a 25-30%, 5-6 times of the market with a core of like close to like low 90s, 90 to 93. And if you do that every year for the next 5-10 years, that is a winning formula whereby you grow 5-6 times more than the industry, but you have in the kind of a top loss ratio. That is then you could plot that out as an incredible business that you're building. And within there, you have to be tech-driven, you have to be enabling self-serve capabilities, you have to have an underwriting advantage, and your product has to resonate. So, and I think that is to me like to every insurtech out there, is like, then we've nailed it, right?
And just to bring us home and thinking more positively, which given these tragic economic headwinds that we all find ourselves in at the moment, what are you most excited about for the future?
I do think like, so I had a company huddle last week, Monday, and I showed some of the stuff that I've been personally uncovering or playing in AI. So for example, I built a mobile, I don't know code, okay? But I went and built a kind of a mock-up of the app that I drew on a piece of paper, uploaded, gave me the code, and then I copied into the website. I analyzed I analyzed our employee data, anonymous data, uploaded to ChatGPT, and then I asked questions and gave me charts. It gave me I had a data analyst next to me that effectively was doing this, which was that tooling. So I think there is I'd say it's a transformative moment, genuinely, I feel, that how we're going to be interacting with companies, how the company is going to work, how the labor market is going to change. It's going to be massive. An example I always use, in 1952, the first container ship sailed from East Coast to West Coast. Before that, it took 30 men to unload a ship. After that, it took 3. Riots, like strikes across the country, now moving stuff around the world without the container ship, unheard of, right? It's become such a norm. So we are going through those kind of cycles of like transformations. And that is, from one side, very exciting, also terrifying. But we've always, when you look at historically, there's been like dozens of those in history. They always end up in a lot better place than people thought they would. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also actually excited that this hype around insurtech has kind of disappeared. It's like massive hype, massive like fall, and it's going to now normalize somewhere. Now there's no pressure. You can build great businesses. You don't have to be like everyone's looking at you. You do your thing right, you do your thing wrong. Everyone is celebrating. You can now just genuinely focus on solving hardcore problems, which I'm very excited with Zego.
Excited about the lack of excitement in insurtech.
Yes.
Interesting
Yes.
note for us to end on there. Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.